Radio. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick, Annie, along with my dedicated and oh-so erudite co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Good afternoon, Curtis.
Hey, how you doing, Annie? We were talking about the weather earlier, and I'm still waiting for it to warm up here in Florida. We don't need this northern weather here.
Well, you must be colder than we are. I'm just 2 states away from you, and it's sunny in the 70s already. The azaleas are getting ready to bloom. I've got my, the pussy willow bush is starting to bloom. Oh, yes. Spring is just right around the corner. Oh, man, we've got so much.
Send some of that down this way.
I'll shoo it down your way. You've got too many southern New Yorkers down there. That's what's chilling you out down there.
Probably.
Oh, man. We got ourselves a great show lined up today. There's so much that has been going on, so much to talk about. Our guest today is going to be Wild Bill Finlay, and we're going to have him for the entire show. We're not letting him go. That's for dang sure. There is just too much to talk about. Man, I want to welcome everyone that's listening in the studio, as well as that's up in the chat room. Please check out our website, which is the name of the show. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. And I'm going to be, in the next couple of weeks, or possibly next month or two, be updating that website to include some more features on it. It's going to be a work in motion, so just bear with me as I do it. But, whoa, I don't even know where to start the show today. My head is absolutely spinning. I just was walking through the living room, getting the show ready and start up, and Sean Spicer was on Fox News doing a presser, and oh man, that guy was kicking butt. He was kicking butt and taking names and saying, that man does not back down. I have not seen a press spokesperson like him since, oh God, I'm going to say, not Brit Hume, oh good Lord, Tony Snow, of that caliber. Someone that will not take it from the press and say, oh, wait a minute, you're wrong here. Your outlet reported XYZ and you were at fault. He calls them out as he sees them. So it's a pleasure to see that. Well, we have so much to do, so much to talk about. Let's not waste any more of our listeners' time, and let's get on with it. Those that listen to our show know, yes, those that listen to our show know that we start off each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And it seems like the only ones I'm doing lately are to first responders, mostly to law enforcement. Although we do recently have a Navy SEAL that just was killed recently in the raid in Yemen, as well as several other SEALs being injured. Our prayers are going out to his family. But today's dedication is going out to Detective Benjamin Edward Marconi of San Antonio Police Department, Texas. His end of watch was Sunday, November 20th of 2016. And this is from the Officer Down Memorial page. And please visit it by going to ODMP. Whoa, what happened here? Whoa, sorry about that. Blog Talk Radio is messing around with my studio again. Holy moly. Guys, will you leave me alone and let me do a show without you screwing it all up? Oh, man. Let's try this again. Please visit the Officer Down Memorial page, which is found at odmp.org. Detective Benjamin Marconi was shot and killed from ambush as he conducted a traffic stop of a vehicle near the intersection of West Nueva Street and Santa Rosa Road at approximately 11:45 a.m. on November 20th. Detective Marconi was sitting in his patrol car during the stop when an unrelated subject stopped his car behind Detective Marconi's patrol car. The man walked up to the passenger side of Detective Marconi's patrol and shot him once in the head. The man then leaned into the patrol car and shot Detective Marconi a second time. The subject fled in his vehicle. He was later arrested by members of San Antonio Police Department SWAT team. Detective Marconi served with the San Antonio Police Department for 20 years. He is survived by his 2 children. And this is by Chris Shattuck, and it was in KSAT. The children of slain San Antonio Police Detective Benjamin Marconi shared their story of loss. Marconi's son, Dane, now wears his father's fraternity ring from Lambda Chi Alpha. He said he won't take it off any time soon. Sitting next to him, J.C. Lewis, the eldest child who's engaged to be married, knows her children will never get to know their grandfather. Dane has a son, Lewis said. He got to know Ben a little bit, but my kids won't ever know him. The two have clung to each other and family in the weeks since their father was gunned down when a man walked up to his patrol car and killed him as he was writing a traffic citation. While the loss hangs heavy, there are lighter moments as they open up about their father. When it came to coping with the stress of being a police officer, he slept a lot. That was his recovery, the siblings said almost at the same time. Then he would usually make a really big dinner. He was a phenomenal chef, Lewis said. Now adults, the two also shared little bits of wisdom their father shared and the indelible impact it had on them. He had a saying, "Everything has a place, and in its place it shall be," Lewis said. Marconi also did not mince words, Lewis said, but they never doubted their father's love. A lot of support, a lot of love, she said. Both agree he taught them to be strong and opinionated. For 2 decades, Marconi woke up and put on a badge. His children said he worked hard for the people of the Alamo City, an impact that will carry on even in death. Even knowing the dangers of being a police officer, they said he did not fear death. He wouldn't be a police officer if he had qualms about dying in the line of duty, Lewis said. He was a strong, solid man, and he knew it was a possibility. The children also said their father had several close calls with death growing up. Nate said his father left work, and they did not hear about the many stories growing up. They said this past week has been easier as others have shared more stories of their father's impact. Before becoming a detective, Marconi was part of the San Antonio's police gang unit. Nearly 30 hours after he was killed, San Antonio police arrested Otis McCain and charged him with murdering Marconi. He has to live with the choices he made, Lewis said. Had he thought through his actions a little bit more, he might not have been in such a bad place. After his arrest, McCain said he lashed out at someone who didn't deserve it. Dane Marconi said that was the exact person his father would have tried to help. If he had been just talking to him, he could have changed everything, he said. It was a chance Marconi has never given. Now they await justice through the legal system. Both children said they will attend the trial. The Marconi children said their father's death is still surreal. Lewis said in the days since, she has become less angry and is grateful for the community's constant support. But they want people to remember that behind every badge is the heart of an officer trying to make a difference. I think it would make them better police officers to not have to worry. I mean, they are always cautious, but it's almost at the point of paranoia for some, because you think, am I next? That's no way to go to work, Lewis said. Both now say they will take their father's message and carry it forward with them as they move on and without. Ben made everything better. He made the world a better place because he took the time to know every situation, Lewis said. So we wake up every day saying, okay, we're a little broken, but how can we make this day a little better? Because that's what he would have done. For many, Marconi was not just a police officer to his community. He was an inspiration of tolerance and strength to his friends. A life and career lived by his words and actions. Today's show is dedicated to Detective Benjamin Edward Marconi, but it's also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there who serve as first responders, who every day don their uniforms and step out the front door knowing whether or not they will ever return. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve in our military, from the birth of our nation to today and into tomorrow. We dedicate to them Last Call by Dave Bray. God bless each and every one of all them.
my children that I love them. Oh yeah, the daddy always loved them so. Tell them to hold the mother tight and to never let her go. Tell them I'll always be watching, looking over them through it all. This is my last call. Tell them to fight for me. Do what's right for me. Choose the light for me. Don't ever forget me. Tell them I'll always be watching, and I'll be there when they fall. This is my last call. For those who serve beside me and who held up in blue light, stand tall, stand strong, hold your head up high. I'm sorry I let you down today, but please know I gave my all. This is my last call.
Keeping with the traditions of the great American Southwest, when heroes were needed, they appeared. People who would mete out truth and justice and defend the weak. People like Vito and Al, Kel, Paul, Annie, LaShonda and Bill, Gotti and Dee, Chuck, David, Kath, Foster and Mike. The modern-day heroes of the Internet airwaves and the hosts of the magnificent 7 days of programming you can listen to each week right here on AmericanPatriotRadio.com.
Hi, this is Annie Ubellis, the radio chick of Southern Sense Talk Radio. I'm inviting you to join me and my guests to listen to us on Southern Sense Talk Radio. You'll find us informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect, but you'll never be bored. You'll never know where we'll go, but you'll love the journey. You can join us every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Southern Sense, and that is Southern with a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. All right, and we're back. Curtis, we've got ourselves an exciting show today, and I see people are in the studio, so if it is my guest waiting in on the line, please press 1 so I know which one of these numbers are yours, because they're both showing as Skype numbers, and I'm going eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one is Bill, Wild Bill. So, Bill, if you're there listening in, press 1 on your keyboard, and there we go. Here we go. Let's welcome aboard our guest, Wild Bill Finlay. Bill, you are one of the few guests that actually call me 2 hours before a show going, hey, are we on the air yet? Good afternoon.
Well, yeah. I was late for Kel's show the other day, and I feel so bad about it. I figured I'll try to make up for it.
And Cal happens to be in the chat room. So, Cal, nah.
Well, thank you for that treatment to fallen officers. As you know, I wore the badge for 20 years, so I am deeply concerned with the rise of attacks on our law enforcement officers, which is a part of the bigger picture. It's not just American cops that are targeted. The Black Lives Matters people are kissing cousins to the new Black Panthers, and that group is calling for the same kind of treatment for all white Americans. Some of them are even talking about going into hospitals to execute white babies in the nursery. I mean, this is just stooping down to sewer-level terrorism. And, even though, there's some great things happening in this country, President Trump is dismantling the Obama destruction machine, but still, we need to keep our eyes open, our feet on the ground, and we, the people, need to be ready for a fight, because it's coming. This manufactured racism has turned out to be very profitable, both politically and financially. I just read the other day that the Ford Foundation has pledged $100 million to Black Lives Matters. So these people who are out there calling for the assassination of American law enforcement officers are getting rich off of this stuff. So you can bet that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
It's a shame because I went into the police academy in New York City just months after Stephen McDonald was shot and paralyzed, and he wasn't expected to live months, and that was the talk of everything. All our classes in the police academy was talking about Stephen McDonald. And shortly after that, a few years into patrol, I lost a friend of mine. I'm sure you remember the name of Eddie Byrne, was executed on the orders of a jailed drug lord as he was sitting in the canine car in front of a house guarding a witness. I mean, that was one of the hardest funerals because Eddie Burns was a friend of mine. I mean, we went to the academy together. Yeah. We sat down and studied together. He went to Queens. I went to Brooklyn. He got the easy job where you thought, nothing's ever going to happen in Queens. We used to call Queens East Cupcake. And here he's executed. And, 10 years later, I'm retired. But it's a hard job. People don't realize the stress and that goes in with the individual. I mean, you can't say 100% cops are all good. You occasionally get the hair bag. But I would say 99.9% of them are out there dedicated and believe in what they're doing. And what is happening to law enforcement and other first responders, because they're not targeting just cops anymore. They're going after EMS. They're going after the firefighters, too. And they're getting pot shots taken at them. And it's got to stop.
It has to stop, and we, the people, need to spearhead that. No more waiting for something to happen and then respond to it. And when the new Black Panthers line up in the front yard of a sheriff's department armed with military-style weapons, yelling, oink, oink, bang, bang, they need to be taken down hard. That is a terrorist threat, and every single one of them should be stuffed so deep in the county jail they have to pump sunlight to them. We've got to take these guys down hard. This is the equivalent of the same hatred that founded the KKK way back when. The exact same thing, and the black KKK is every bit as evil as the former KKK. And I was very proud, that back in the 60s and 70s, black and white Americans marched shoulder to shoulder to stomp out white racism, and they were very successful. And today, men and women, black and white, need to once again march shoulder to shoulder, this time to stamp out black racism. And the first step to getting that done is calling it what it is. This is the black KKK, and they are lynching our American law enforcement officers.
It's funny you mentioned that protest that was in front of the sheriff's department, and I believe that was in Texas. I'm probably going to say the wrong name of the town. I thought it was Gaston, Texas, or something like that. And one of the Black Panthers that was in there happened to later on be a Muslim terrorist that committed a murder here so we had him on video in front of the sheriff's station, and then just a short time later he commits an act of terrorism here on American soil, and no one is talking about that. We mentioned that on the show here, and we're one of the few people that saw the video and talked about it. but no one else. The media. Where's the rest of the media?
Well, and they're not talking about the Islamic connection either. You know, a lot of this black racism has been pushed on America from decades of radical Islam recruiting in the prison system. Chuck Colson, years ago, you know, with his prison ministry, he estimated that 50,000 young men a year, young black men, were recruited into Islam in the prison system. This is the creation of a terrorist army among us, and I believe we are beginning to reap the results of that terrible, terrible program.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when that was starting up back in the late 60s, and everyone's going, oh, no, it's a religion of peace. And of course, back then, you know, I'm still in school. I don't know anything. And I said, all right, fine. If they come out and reforms them, then I don't see the harm in that. You know, prison ministry is a good thing, and the Christian church has been doing that ever since the Christian church has existed, going into prisons to help and evangelize. But I said, all right, fine. And now, as we saw it with the rise of Black Panthers in the 70s, with the rise of the assaults on police, and Joanne Chesimard being a perfect example of that, you know, we saw this violence in the 70s, and it finally started to turn around with now New York City and other cities turning around to start to take law enforcement back. But no one really paid attention to what we are calling radical Islam, but Islam is doing to our society. We weren't paying attention, and now it's hitting us over the head with a 2x4, and we're still not paying attention.
Some of us are. As long as we continue to speak out, others will gravitate to us because, you know, we the people, the average people of the United States, showed with the overwhelming election of Donald Trump that they are finally waking up and they're getting fed up with the nonsense that is causing bloodshed in our streets. You know, we have more people concerned now than ever before, and it's people like you and Gotti and Joe Dan Gorman, people that are on the internet who are speaking truth boldly. And we're going to start seeing more and more people coming to you for answers, saying, you know, what is happening and what can we do? So you keep up the good work, Annie. You are truly serving the USA in a very important way.
I think I need my hip boots and waders on right now. Oh, man. But, you know, they're complaining about this, quote, Muslim ban on travel. And it's only 7 countries, and it's countries that we know have sent over terrorists to attack us. They're talking about Iraq, Iran, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, and Sudan. And yet, they're saying it's a Muslim ban, but they don't include the top 10. And out of the top 10, the only one that's included in that list is Iran. So we've got Indonesia with 13.1 million Muslims, India with 11 million Muslims, Pakistan 10.5 million, Bangladesh 8.4. Then you go down all the way to Nigeria, Egypt, and Iran is listed at number 7 at 4.6. So out of the 7 countries that they are banning from travel for only 90 days, that's only 3 months, guys, only one is in the top 10 list of Muslim-populated countries. So why are we calling it a Muslim ban instead of just a ban on terrorist supporting countries?
I'll tell you why. It's because the left-wing media has declared all-out war on Donald Trump. If he walks out and says good morning in front of the cameras, they're going to claim that he made a racist statement. Donald Trump is guilty of, I guess you'd call it, hate breathing. Every breath he takes, they label him a hater, a racist, a bigot, and it doesn't matter what he does. He's going to be vilified. And we need to keep exposing the media. The media is one of the biggest problems in this nation. The First Amendment was never intended to protect sedition in the USA, and I'm looking forward to some tough new laws that will take on criminals posing as journalists.
I don't know if you caught any of the press conference with Sean Spencer just a little while ago. And for those that were giving me a lot of prayers and support for my husband, thank you. He's doing great. but I was doing his feeding tube, and I almost spilled it all over him because I'm yelling at the TV going, Sean, go for it, go for it. He is not letting up for the stuff that has slipped past and been softballed and puff pieces coming out of the press under the Obama administration. They're trying to pretend they are tough journalists. And Sean Spicer is just slapping him down left and right. No. You in the New York Times reported this wrong. You got the facts wrong, and all you're doing is repeating wrong facts. And he calls them out on it. Bless him for that.
Well, Breitbart had an article the other day, and it was about how the left have nothing left but violence. And I'm looking at, where am I? I'm on Breitbart right now, and Tim Kaine, Hillary's vice presidential candidate, is on MSNBC calling for people to fight in the streets against Donald Trump. This is instigating riots. And as a law enforcement officer, you know, Annie, that instigating riots, inciting a riot, is a criminal offense.
Exactly.
And we need to stop being so timid about filing criminal charges on these so-called protesters. These are not protesters. They are deliberately using violence to promote their political agenda. And that is, I believe, the definition of terrorism. And they're going after innocent people. And as you've seen, they are the vilest of the vile. Some of them, they're just out there because they love the destruction and the violence. And these are criminals that need to be reined in. If we're going to be a law and order nation, then we need to start with law and order in the streets at these flashpoint demonstrations. I posted a video of I think it was Portland, Oregon police. There was a bunch of these Looney Tune lefty protesters blocking traffic, and of course you know what that's for. Nothing but to enrage innocent Americans. Well, anyway, the Portland police come around the side of a bus, and they just charged into these guys and just waylaid them. I said we should make that a national sport, call it punk busting. But the citizens around there just cheered as these liberal Looney Tune crybabies hit the pavement, and some of them just took off running. And I don't know how far they got. I imagine there were probably some citizens that jumped in to help the police. I know I certainly would have been tempted if I was there. But, yeah, I think we're seeing a new attitude now that there's a new sheriff in town. And, you know, I think Donald Trump is turning the police loose to do their jobs the way they should be done. And so look for good things to happen. But, you know, as a cop, you know that we are always taught to hope for the best but be prepared for the worst.
Exactly.
So let's keep having fun, enjoying watching the restoration of the USA, but we need to keep our guard up. These liberal monsters, they are as bad as any communists over in Vietnam or Burma, and really the only thing they do have left is violence. They cannot debate based on facts because their policies are foolish and they fall apart whenever honest discussion is allowed to break out. So let's encourage our cops, encourage the citizens to step up and be willing to do what good citizens should do. And that sometimes includes citizens personally standing up to cops, or not cops, to criminals. You know, Annie, one of the dumbest things that law enforcement officers have been preaching to the public for 50 years is never resist a criminal. It's not worth your life. Well, to that I say bullpucky. Every burglar in America should get shot at or beaten by every person who sees them doing what they're doing. Every rapist in America should have claw marks, knife stabs, and if possible, a bullet wound, so we can trail him to his house. You know, I'm serious. If every citizen would stand up to the criminals of this country, do you know what would happen to the crime rate?
Well,
it would be put on the endangered species list, and the Democrats would be crying that they have to fund the saving of the criminals.
You know, that's the problem. We're mollycoddling bad behavior. We're saying, oh, it was the Twinkie that made you rob that store. Oh, it was the hot coffee you spilled on the lap that made you rape that innocent child. You know, we are explaining away people's criminal behavior instead of holding them responsible for their actions. Oh, you had a bad childhood. Your daddy spanked you once because you stole your neighbor's toy away from him. So you got spanked, and that made you a bad person for the rest of your life. No, people have to be responsible for their own behavior, and they have to be held accountable for their behavior. No more mollycoddling. Take away the TVs, the computers, and everything else. You get locked in your jail cell when you commit and are convicted of a crime. If you are convicted and found guilty, no more special privileges. You get 3 hots and a cot, and that's it. You do your time, you stamp out those license plates, you do the hard labor on the side of the work, you pay back society for your poor decision, and it's not being done. We find an excuse for everyone, and if it feels good, it must be good. And that's not the way a moral society succeeds. And we're not succeeding as a society because we have allowed our moral values to be overrun. I mean, you got I'm sorry, I'm going to say the wrong thing. Chuck Schumer, you know what I wanted to say. You know exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah. You got Schumer out there with phony crocodile tears because we have a ban on 7 nations that support terrorism for 90 days. He's crying crocodile tears. Where were those tears on 9/11, Senator Schumer? There were none from you.
Well, you know, Annie, liberals have little they can claim to be offended about other than slavery, Jim Crow laws, and the welfare state, and they manufacture those too. They seem to be more issue-oriented today and creating issues and harping on the issues. As you noticed up in Canada recently, there was a potential issue they were ready to leap on, but all of a sudden it got quiet, and that was the killing at the mosque up there. And I'm sure they were ready to leap on that, but the thing is, when they found out that the people who did this were potential terrorists, they backed off. So that was one less issue. So they are not about, the rule of law. We know that by Obama and this attorney general that just got fired. But it's just something we need to watch out for, these issues that are manufactured.
Well, Bill, jump on that.
I couldn't put it any better than that. But I'm sitting here thinking about the old Wild Bill banishment bill that I'd like to see go through. What do you think of this? Any person convicted of 3 felonies in the USA will face life in prison or a reduced sentence if they agree to renounce their U.S. citizenship and catch a MAC flight to the Middle East.
Oh, wait a minute. We can't deport anyone back to their home country if their home country won't accept them anymore. Right?
Screw their home country. I'm talking about these liberal snowflakes that are out there committing arson in these riots. Let's send some of these Berkeley, California students out. Give them life in prison, or they can renounce their citizenship, and maybe we'll take it easy on them, send them to another country. But I would like to see more of these people maneuvered into voluntarily renouncing their citizenship. Let's just start getting them out of our country. And if we do it right, there's a bunch of them that would go for it. Mm-hmm. Join the ultimate Trump protest. Renounce your citizenship. Get on the free flight to France today. And when they arrive, have an American embassy desk set up where they sign the papers right then and there, and then they are persona non grata. They have no country, and we will not take them back no matter how much France cries. It could be done.
Well, it's funny because what the heck was that name of that karate actor? He was at one point a sheriff. They did a cop show about him. Oh, God.
Chuck Norris.
No. Chuck Norris is a good guy. The other one, he actually went over to... Oh, God, he blew up like a blimp. Recently, he went over to Russia and became a Russian citizen, gave up his American citizenship. We can send them over to Putin, too, It doesn't have to be just the Middle East. Let Putin deal with some of these criminals.
I'm sure Putin has some public service jobs that they could be doing. Yeah. Well, you remember, the South Carolina Tea Party. I got to, tell the new president how to do his job. I got a kick out of that. But, yeah, when we get a chance, we should start putting forth some of these ideas. A Putin chain gang. I like it. You can bet he would run it right.
All right, well, Shakir A7 in the chat room said it was Steven Seagal. That's the person I was thinking of. Thank you for giving me that. Yeah, I was just having a bit of a brain fart. So I got some of the best listeners, I swear, because they sometimes prove that they are smarter than I am. Oh, man. No, you and I on the phone earlier were talking about this FedEx worker that turned around and stopped the flag burning. He sees one group of people starting to burn the flag. He jumps out of the FedEx truck, goes and rescues the flag, and then as he's rescuing that one, as I understand it, they attempt to burn a second flag. He takes his fire extinguisher and extinguishes the fire and rescues the second flag and ends up in a, if I remember this correctly, tug of war with the protesters?
I didn't see that. I just saw a couple of photos of it, but I read the article. And years ago, a judge got the idea that burning the American flag was freedom of speech. And I can understand the judge's reasoning behind it, but when you consider the motivation of today's protesters, the reason they are burning the American flag is simply to harass and enrage Americans who have done nothing to them. And that is basically the definition of criminal harassment in the criminal code of just about every state. Harassment is a crime, and arson is also a crime. They can burn their own property, but if they do it in any way that could endanger any other property around them, that's arson. And something else, Annie? Citizens in all 50 states are authorized to use reasonable force to stop the commission of a crime. And what that FedEx guy did was perfectly reasonable. He grabbed his fire extinguisher, he went out, he blasted the fire out, and he grabbed up those flags to stop the arson and to stop the illegal harassment of American citizens. And if we were to present the case like that, we just might get some positive judicial rulings that would bring back defending the American flag. And it would hack off the left, but that's just icing on the cake.
It's funny because, I remember that ruling, and I'm saying, well, desecration of an American symbol, and yet if we were to do that to the ISIS flag, to the Muslim Brotherhood
or the rainbow flag,
we would see such a backlash from mainstream media. But because it was an American flag, and we are the nasty people in the universe, we are the worst people possible. We are nothing but racist bigots, and yet we accord freedom, and we protect freedom like no other nation has ever done. The closest you can come to is Israel. The closest you can come to is Israel. And even Israel protects the Muslim liberties and freedoms under their care. They give them more freedom and liberty their fellow Muslim nations do not. And yet we're the bad guys. Okay, we say you have the freedom to say something as stupid as you want. As you can say it as many times as you want. You are free to act like an idiot if you want. But there are repercussions for your actions. Because if I disagree with it, I'm going to have the freedom also to counter your idiocy. And this is what people don't understand about the beauty of America.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not against the law to be an idiot, but when these idiots do things that cross the criminal line, we need to take a firm hand with them. And, what really made that flag burning bad is that one of those idiot protesters was wearing a cowboy hat. The FedEx guy should have rescued the cowboy hat. Western hats are a memento of the days of honor when a man's word was his bond, an honest day's work for an honest dollar. Truth, justice, and the American way. If I ever see one of these liberal snowflakes wearing a Western hat, I might have to reclaim that.
Especially if it's a Stetson.
That was arrested for rescuing a flag. Remember, this was last year sometime. Pretty young girl. She grabbed the flag from these protesters, and she got a death grip on it. And the protesters called the police. And the police told them she had to give them back their property, and she would not do it. She forced the police to arrest her. They probably didn't want to, but anyway, she was quite the national hero for a while there too, and I believe those charges were dropped. But I would love to see defending the flag come back in America. And a little bit of thing. During the inauguration, there were 1 million bikers for Trump that went to Washington D.C. to oppose these liberal crybabies. And the leader of that group was on Fox News the other day, and he said, "Oh yeah, we handed out a lot of knuckle sandwiches." Apparently, some of these protesters learned that they're not going to get away with doing things to bikers that they do to cops. So we didn't get any on video. Didn't get any pictures, but apparently a few of them got their comeuppance. God bless America.
Well, Kel just posted up in the chat room, thank you, Kel, for this, that it was 40 years ago, as of April 25th of this year, that Rick Monday, a Cubs outfielder, rescued a burning American flag on the outfield. So he went out there on the ball field and says, "You're not doing this on my field." Bless him for that. So, thank you, Kel, for that article. That was a little known thing. Not a lot of people know that one. But, we were talking about the snowflakes right after the inauguration. And I was on J.J. McCartney's radio show yesterday. He was interviewing me. And I brought this up. And I said, this shop owner in Tennessee should be applauded. And anyone that can get onto her Facebook page, or anyone that lives in the Tennessee area near her, stop in the shop and tell her thank you for being a great American. Her name is Elizabeth Poe, and her shop is The Joy of Knitting, and she's in Franklin, Tennessee. And she put a notice up on her shop and said that, and in Facebook, saying that if you're going to come into my shop to buy the yarn to make those pink pussy hats that they were wearing the day after the inauguration, shop somewhere else, because I don't want you to use my product to create a hateful item. And she basically got excoriated by the left. There were some people that congratulated her for her patriotism and supported her, but I'm getting her name out there. I'm getting the name of her shop out there and saying, people, go up on Facebook, go to The Joy of Knitting, her Facebook page, and tell her thank you. Let her know there's a lot of us out here that support her, a lot more than those crazy wing nuts out there, left-wing nuts.
Yeah. I've been to Franklin, Tennessee, and I don't think she has to worry too much about liberal protesters at her store. I think what she did was just basically a brilliant marketing idea. So, I don't know, you think we could market ourselves by going to a university and burning the ISIS flag and the Palestinian flag? And, what else? Of course, the rainbow flag is always fair game. But, yeah. But, they may not pay attention to something like that. They don't really, quite often, they don't really care. They're just looking to aggravate us. The politics of aggravation.
Bill, I got a question for you. Is the killing of law enforcement personnel, is that a capital offense in America yet?
You're doing what to law enforcement officials?
The killing of law enforcement personnel.
Curtis, you're getting an echo. Curtis, you're getting an echo. Do you have a speaker on in the background? Because we're getting an echo off of you. It's hard to understand.
I got the question. Yeah. Okay. Is killing a law enforcement officer a capital offense in America? If it is a federal charge, yes, it is. If it's a state charge, it depends on the state. There are some states that have done away with the death penalty. They will not obey God's command to seek man's blood for murder. And so it all depends on the state.
Yeah, I know New York State does have that as a law. Unfortunately, it's not one that very many juries will give as a verdict, unfortunately. But it's a hard thing for someone like me to wrestle with, because if you are a Christian, you don't want to see an innocent life of a child being taken away, and it makes it hard to give a death penalty when you still think life, no matter how bad it is under God's eyes redeemable and still loved. So who are we as a man to say that the death penalty should go? It's a hard issue to really wrestle with, Bill.
Well, the Bible makes it very clear. In the Old Testament, God said, if anyone sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. So the death penalty was instituted by God himself. And it shows the importance of human life.
Excuse me, a little bit of a coughing fit there. I want to go back to the snowflakes and the day after the inauguration. And I was staying just 2 blocks behind the Capitol in a private apartment, which we had rented from the couple that lived there. So we were prime seat for the next morning when we were trying to get to our car and pack it up to go back home with all these protesters out there. And I couldn't believe some of the individuals in this crowd, they were actually wearing the hijab. Here are American women supporting the subjugation of other women to Islam. I could not believe that they actually thought this was something worth protesting, to support the hijab. Did we lose Bill? Did we lose everyone? Am I here alone?
No, I'm here.
Okay, I think we may have lost Bill. All right. Well, this is something that I saw. They were carrying these posters that said, "We the people," and the woman in the poster was wearing a hijab that was an American flag. Yeah,
I've seen that all over social media.
But I think at this point...
That's the last image. That's the last image they should be shown because of the treatment of women, in Islamic states.
Yeah. It's the last thing that they should have been wearing. If anything, they should have been protesting against the hijab because it's a symbol of subjugation. It's a symbol of saying that this woman is a second-class citizen, that she cannot have the choice of wearing whatever she chooses, whether or not she chooses to go out in public in a bikini or wrapped in her bed's blanket. To wear the hijab is just such a symbol of hatred and of enslavement. That they really have no idea what they're protesting. The ignorance is amazing.
They're clueless.
Yeah, and it looks like we may have lost our guest, Bill. If you can hear me, we've lost you completely. You may want to try to dial back in. We lost him completely, which is a shame because Bill was on a roll. But I noticed there was a little bit of lag, so there may have been a problem with his cell phone. But, I got to say something, though, Curtis. This is going to be starting, I believe, this Saturday, where I will be on a panel on the J.J. McCarthy network, and it's going to be called the Nightside World News Weekly, which will appear on Saturday at 12 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. So that's going to be coming up on Saturdays. So if people don't get enough of us on Tuesdays and Fridays, they can always tune into J.J. McCartney's show and listen to us on Saturday. I'll be part of a 4 or 5 person panel. So it's not just me. There's 4 or 5 other people on there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But let's see.
And that'll be on BT? BTR?
No.
Where's it going to be at?
You have to go to jjmccartney.com, and I'll put a link up in the chat room, which I'll do right now. JJMC, like the Beatle McCartney, is the think of it, Paul McCartney. No, JJ McCartney, and they can check out up on there, and it's exciting. My friend Andrea Shea King asked me if I wanted to do this. She was originally doing it at 8:00 in the morning with them, and the Saturday after the election, they decided that was their last show, and they were not going to continue anymore. Some of the panelists decided to go into other projects, so they kind of just broke up. So he put this whole new panel together, and I don't know if JJ is left-handed. Very interesting question. Never had someone ask me if someone's left-handed before, but it's going to be exciting. He did an interview with me yesterday, so if you go to that, you can listen to the interview with me on that. So it's good. We got a lot of stuff coming up, but I'm hoping Bill Finlay will call back in because I see him sitting there in the studio.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. What
I'm
happened,
here.
Bill? You dropped out. We lost
Well,
you.
I don't know. I was on a roll. I was on a soapbox, man, and I looked up and I wasn't broadcasting. So and now I forgot what I said because I wasn't really paying attention anyway. But I'm back.
Well, I was starting to talk about
Oh,
the women in the protests on Saturday. They were wearing and promoting the hijab. Now, you're there decrying women's rights, women's freedom, and women's equality, and yet you're promoting the hijab?
that shows you how desperate they are. They will get in bed with Satan himself if it would hurt Donald Trump. And it shows you that these people are dead serious. And what I was saying when I was talking to myself here was that we need to realize that we're not just in a debate over differing political views. We are in a war for the survival of American freedom, and these people are the most vicious, violent, deceptive, evil people on earth. I've said for a long time that liberalism is the face of evil in America, and we need to realize that. And Americans, all of us, need to realize that we are in a fight for the survival of American freedom, and it is just as serious as the battles that our founding fathers fought for the War of Independence. And just for the record, I looked up that Bible verse on the death penalty, and Genesis 6:9. Genesis 6:9 or 9:6. I clicked it off here, but it's Genesis 9:6. In case you want to use that as part of your future debates. But yeah, it's time to start hitting back. You know, we have been, in my opinion, far too polite. Dare I say it, far too tolerant of liberal foolishness in America, that now it's costing Americans their lives, and it's threatening the very freedom that we owe to the next generation to preserve. You know, we've always said we want our kids to have a better life than we had. We dare not let that great American tradition die. It's time to, what do they say, root hog or die. It's time to crush these SOBs before they crush American freedom, because they're not going away. They will be back. You know, we have 4 years of Trump, which is going to serve as kind of an umbrella for us to rally our forces and to take decisive action. But the left will rise again unless we take serious action very soon.
Well, you know, it's somebody made an observation that if we were to have these snowflakes that are born today, if they had lived 50 years ago or even 100 years ago, they would not have survived. There was no way for them to survive because they don't have the skills of critical thinking. They don't have the mechanical skills of survival. That these individuals, if we were to enter a situation such as World War II, we would have lost the war with these individuals out there in the front lines. They would have thrown their weapons down and run in the opposite direction. Can you imagine one of these snowflakes having to live in a foxhole filled with mud and every other disgusting thing on earth and live in that for months on end, with living on just sea rations and whatever rainwater you can collect? They would not have survived. D-Day would never have been a success, even though we lost so many young men in D-Day, in the war itself. Yeah, what would today's youth do under those circumstances? Forget about Vietnam or even Korea.
Oh, they wouldn't have been in a World War II foxhole, Annie. The snowflakes would have been in the universities inviting Nazi speakers to speak to the students so that we could understand the enemy and ask them, why do you hate us so much? And how can we change our lives so that the Nazis won't want to kill us anymore? And, it would have been a mess. You know, the Elvis Presleys and the Ricky Nelsons would have killed these people. They would not have put up with this nonsense.
Audie Murphy, who went on to become a famous actor after he was the most decorated man in World War II. You know, they do not understand hardship. God forbid you take away their cell phone. Oh, my goodness. If they did not have an ability to text someone or be up on Twitter or Facebook or whatever the social networks are of today. God forbid you take that away from them for 5 minutes. It's cruel and unusual punishment. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I wanted for Christmas. You really can't get them in this country, but you can get them in England, and that's a cell phone blocker. It's about the size of a phone, fits in your pocket, and you turn it on, and it blocks every cell phone within 50 yards. I just wanted to go sit at the food court at the mall.
Oh, I want one. I so want one.
You can get them online. And so when you see the driver behind you driving and texting, flip on your cell phone blocker. Might save the rear end of your car.
Oh, man. And I almost got hit by a woman. I was walking across the parking lot to get to my car, and here this woman's backing out, and she stops in the middle of backing out, and I assumed that she saw me walking. So I had stopped temporarily just to make sure she was going to stop, and then when she stopped, I said, all right. Nope. She's on her cell phone texting someone, and she's continuing to back the car out, missed me by a matter of inches. By inches. I mean, guys, there's nothing so important in your life that you have to be on that phone 24/7. There's nothing that important that cannot wait, that you can't put that cell phone down, get to your destination, and then see who called you. I don't answer my phone if I'm driving. I don't pick it up.
I don't either. No, I don't either. The only thing I do is I'll every once in a while have to punch in some GPS coordinates, but that's it. And that still messes me up because, you know, it just feels good not to do what that female voice tells me to do. I'm the old confirmed bachelor here, so yeah, GPS doesn't always work.
No, a man never asks for directions. A man never asks.
We don't.
But guys,
that's not a laughing matter, Annie. That's a matter of manhood.
You know, it's funny.
That's why they finally had to let women into the space program, because they needed somebody who would stop and ask for directions.
That's why they taught us to drive, so we would at least get to the destination. Oh man, but it's true that GPS also, it gives you wrong direction, guys. I constantly will put in my home address and then where I want to go, put the phone down and let it talk me through. Every single time it's trying to tell me to go 2 blocks out of my way just to get out of my driveway to the corner that is just 100 feet away from my driveway. And it's telling me to go down the wrong way of the street, go 2 more blocks to come back around. It's sending me half a mile out of my way to go 100 feet to the corner. That's at my house. And Curtis has been at my house, so he knows how close my driveway is to the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So, put the phones down, guys. Your life does not depend upon it. Not unless you're getting mugged, robbed, or you need to call 911. It's not necessary. We're talking about the snowflakes, but I think with the election of Trump, America's starting to wake up and realize that the message is wrong out there. And you keep on hearing everyone say, Trump did not win the majority vote. Well, if you take away those 7 counties that carried Hillary in the election, if you take away those 7 counties, 4 of which are in New York, in the metropolitan area of New York, which encompasses New York City, 4 of them are in New York City, and the other 3 are in California, there was no popular vote for Hillary Clinton. So you cannot say 7 counties in the United States is the majority vote. That's not what the Founding Fathers meant when they created the Electoral College. They wanted each state to have an equal vote in the election. And I think they're killing the message with their actions.
Well, I'm going to say this much. It never was about the popular vote. It was always about the Electoral, college. And this is just another instance where the media blow things out of proportion. They create an issue that's really a non-issue. We have never elected a president, with the exception of Ford, who didn't, win by the Electoral College. And the first president, the only president to ever win unanimously was our first president, George Washington. But it's another manufactured issue by the media and the left.
Did we lose Bill again?
Nope, I'm just being polite.
Well, you're here to jump in, Bill. You're here to jump ugly. If I say anything wrong, jump ugly on me. But I think that where we see all these protests, the flag burnings, the pink pussycat hats, everything else, I think they're killing the message, and the public is being turned off on it. I think they've become their own worst enemy. Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing?
I am. I definitely am. And Napoleon once said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. So we need to let these people go. In fact, let's just keep irritating them so that they keep acting stupid. If there's a proven scientific fact that anger boosts your metabolic rate and helps you lose weight. So I'm considering a liberal health regimen where I just irritate the living daylights out of them for their own good. So they can lose some weight and slim down and feel better about themselves.
I like that, because last year, my New Year's...
I think they're going to lose some more seats in the midterms. That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to lose more seats.
Well,
that's exactly what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Well,
last year, my New Year's resolution was I must piss off at least one liberal a day, which I succeeded in doing pretty much the entire year. But I wasn't able to do a New Year's resolution. I mean, with my husband in the hospital, all that went out the window. So I'm going to make a late New Year's resolution, and I'm going to continue what I said last year, must piss off at least one liberal a day. How's that sound, Bill?
Okay. I'll race you to the top on that. Let's get a little healthy competition going.
Oh, man. Now, I just want to change stride a little bit, because we were talking earlier about this immigration ban. And my friend Andrea Shea King, I love her sense of humor, she posted up on her Facebook page a repeat of a CNN and MSNBC, NBC article that the wall is going to cost $120 per household to build the wall. And she put up there, where do I send the check? So, you think about the loss, the economic loss we have with this influx of illegal immigration, with the influx not only just the north and south borders, but those that come over and overstay their visa and end up, flying planes into the World Trade Center. The economic loss alone is more than $120 per household. So I think overall it's a savings, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That wall is going to cost a fraction of what we are now spending on welfare and other benefits and the criminal cleanup of the acts of these illegal invaders. It's a deal. It's a bargain.
When you think with this ban that he has on these 7 countries, which affects the refugee resettlement program, the UN telling us who we must take in without our permission, dumping them into communities that are ill prepared for them, you think about the cost per refugee alone. That you got the welfare that they're going to be receiving, the food stamps, the Section 8 housing, the Medicaid, the education, teaching not just the student to speak English, but the rest of the family to speak English, and the jobs that are now being prepared and set aside for them specifically that an American worker is eligible for but will not get. You think of that overall cost per individual, $120 and a 3-month ban is just, I'm sorry, I'm asking, where do I send the check?
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course, once that wall starts, there's going to be opposition there too. I would like to see our military be pulled completely out of Afghanistan. They've been there too long, and we should set them up on the southern border. The first duty of any military is to guard the border of its own nation, and that's something we have really failed to do. It's time to let the United Nations deal with ISIS and all that bunch. Now, of course, if Trump and Putin strike a deal to go in and just absolutely hammer those guys, then they should do that first and then set up on the southern border.
You know, it's funny. Someone just, it was Sasquatch that put a article up in the chat room from the Washington Times. Unfortunately, Washington Times has so many pop-ups, it's hard to read the article. I just caught the gist of it, that North Dakota, those protesters that are out there protesting the pipeline, they're getting paid to protest the pipeline. So North Dakota says, well, you're employed in the state of North Dakota, so therefore you should be paying North Dakota income taxes. I love it. You want to get rid of protesters, paid protesters. Think about that. Occupy Wall Street. If New York, L.A., or Washington, D.C. had said that to the Occupy Wall Street protesters that were paid, we know there were ads up on Craigslist for these protesters to go from city to city. If we said you got to pay not only New York City income taxes, you got to pay New York State taxes, that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. You want to break up a protest, it's the best way to do it. I love it.
Sure. And, they're going to go back to their own state, so just hold off, wait, see if they don't pay the tax, and then the state file on their homes, their cars, get a judgment against them. Hey, have a little fun.
I love it. It is really ingenious. And I think, conservatives and Republicans are now starting to think outside the box to counter these protests. And I always say, you want to hit someone and you want to really penalize them really hard, hit them in the wallet, which is what it seems North Carolina is doing. Penalize them and make them pay. I think it's the best way to shut someone's argument down. They're doing it to us. Look how many Christian bakeries and wedding venues are being shut down because they will not do their whatever goods and services for the LGBT community. So they go after us and they sue us. So why don't we just countersue now? Just say, all right, you want part of my wallet, I'm taking the rest of your wallet. I like that idea.
Well, if they're being paid, that means they have a job. We could probably cut their welfare benefits, too.
True. We cut off all the entitlement programs from them. That'd be great. We would save the taxpayer billions of dollars. Think about that.
And we have a president who might sign off on that. Any person convicted of a crime, sabotaging the national security of the USA, is permanently banned from receiving any welfare benefits. We could probably get that one signed off on.
Well, isn't there a law already in effect that if you have a criminal conviction, a felony conviction, that you cannot receive government subsidies? Isn't that already a law?
I don't know. But the flip side of that is, what do you do with the convicted felon who has a family to feed? So it'd be a multifaceted thing, but the threat should be there to keep these people from spilling blood in these protests.
It's interesting. We have Trump now signing all these executive orders. Seems like he's signing at least one or more a day. He still is not up to the amount that Obama did under the same number of days, but he's kind of like rivaling him and undoing a lot of different things. And one of them is he's saying that, with this new immigration ban, they're going to look at the stringent ways of vetting the immigrants coming in, making sure that they are here legally. And for those that they determine to be terrorists, he's going to start putting them back in prison. And everyone's going, well, where are you going to send them? Well, don't we still have Gitmo? Isn't Gitmo still open and usable?
Absolutely. And I would volunteer my time to work at a new tent city, a Joe Arpaio-style tent city, to fill it up with these snowflakes. And whoever came up with the term snowflake, I really don't understand what that means anyway. What's the deal on that?
Oh, they're so delicate.
Well, they're kind of like puffballs, soft.
Okay.
They're so delicate. You raise the heat and they're just going to melt and wither. Remember when Trump was elected, they were all in fetal positions on the floor. They needed therapy. They needed these therapy animals to come in. They had to have these condolence sessions. Safe zones and all this lovely little stuff. Oh, my goodness. You have to call in sick for the next 4 years while Trump is in office because you can't work. You're now disabled because Trump was elected president. Really? Get a life.
Can you imagine fighting World War II with this group?
Yeah.
They wouldn't even got on the boat.
Yeah, but they've certainly been formed into loyal Democrat voters. Thank you, public schools. Thank you, liberal colleges. Yep, educated idiots. Man.
Well, it seems that now we're trying to start taking back our education system. We're starting on the elementary level, moving on up. So it's going to take us a couple of decades before we can weed out all the rot. That's if we have the endurance to do it. And Cal put up in the chat room, thank you, Cal. She says, use Gitmo as an Ellis Island type processing center for Islamic refugees. We bring back the concept of Ellis Island where you have to come through, and Trump was talking about certain questions that should be asked of these refugees. Do you support Sharia law? But he's not the first president to do that. The first president that had a standard in order for an immigrant to come to the United States, believe it or not, was a progressive by the name of Teddy Roosevelt. He said, if you believe in polygamy, you cannot come to the United States. We don't want you here because polygamy is illegal in the United States. And the reason why he did that is because he saw the danger of Islam. He didn't want Muslims immigrating to the United States. So he said, if you are a polygamist, you're not welcome here. So what is he doing different, Trump, than past presidents have done?
He's not. But, like I said, these people are at war with Donald Trump. If he said good morning, they would accuse him of making a racist statement. So that's just the way that's going to be for the next 4 years at least. A 4-year-long national hissy fit, which means that you and I will never run out of material for our shows.
When Trump...
I just want to add on to what you said, Andy. One reason why we had an Ellis Island was quarantine people. We have mumps and other diseases on the rise in America, and I can't help but to think that it's because we're letting people come in and they're not quarantined or anything.
This is true. And now, Bill, back in it was 1978 to 82, I owned a travel agency. And at that point in time, if we were to travel overseas, you ended up having to get a visa and you had to get a series of inoculations in order to travel outside of the United States to various countries so that when you returned, you did not bring these diseases back. That no longer exists in today's travel. You don't see that at all, where if you're traveling to a foreign country out of the United States to that country to return, you're not getting any inoculations against these diseases. And now we have these refugees, migrants, illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them. We have individuals coming back. They're not, their personality is not vetted, their political background is not vetted, their convictions are not vetted, and they are not medically cleared or vetted. So yes, we have a rise of so many diseases, and yet no one's concerned.
Well, if they have a disease, it just makes them even more of a victim in need of American aid. So,
no.
That's probably the end of the road.
Well,
but I do like the idea of Ellis Island style center for immigrants coming in, one on each coast. Let's set up one in Los Angeles too, and that should be absolutely mandatory. Of course, what are we going to do with all the ones that had to be sent back? You know what? They'd have to go back by air. Ellis Island was for people arriving by ship. So, yeah, it was a great idea, but I think it would fizzle.
Well, it's going to be an interesting thought to see what interesting time to see what Trump will do on this immigration issue, because it is a hot button issue. My grandfather came through Ellis Island. Matter of fact, I think both of my grandfathers came through Ellis Island. One grandmother was born in Brooklyn, so she's an American. The other one was from Italy. She came over as a tourist, but they still had to go through to make sure that they weren't bringing any diseases, if they weren't criminals, and we're not doing that. And someone was quoting the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty and saying, well, why aren't you adhering to what it says on the Statue of Liberty? But, oh, heck, you know what? The French are the ones that gave us the Statue of Liberty with that quote on there. We didn't ask for the quote to be put on there. We just said, well, thank you for the gift. We'll put it in the middle of the New York Harbor and, have a nice life. So why that quote is not part of our law? What part of that is in the Constitution or is in any law or regulation? It doesn't exist, Bill. So why are they asking us to adhere to what a poem says and not what the Constitution says?
Oh, false guilt is one of their favorite weapons. And, all their accusations, racist, bigot, homophobe, Islamophobe, those things should bounce off us like bullets off Superman's chest. They've overused it. They no longer work. Time to start ignoring them.
Man. It is. It's the truth. It's the truth. And now Trump is saying that he may reinstate the secret CIA black site prisons. Now, here's an idea. Bring back those prisons that you had, say, in Yugoslavia or whatever you want to call it now, or some of these other countries, so that our terrorists don't even hit our shore. If they get arrested, say, in Greece or France or Germany or wherever they are, leave them there. Don't bring them here. Don't bring them over to Gitmo. Let them handle them over there. So what's wrong with these CIA black site prisons? We know American citizens are being held in black sites by other countries, say, like North Korea and Iran. Do you see a problem here?
No, I don't. I think you're right. We can keep them off our shores. And speaking of North Korea, our new Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, is going to Korea for a very special visit. It's possible we may see some movement towards the unification of the Korean Peninsula, which would be one less nuclear idiot on the loose in this world.
Now, if they unite it, what type of government will you see? Because you've got Communist North and the Democratic South, and they are two completely diverse economies and political governments.
One is starving, the other is wealthy and prosperous. I have a pretty good idea how that would turn out.
Well, it's funny because if you actually look at a picture of the Earth taken from space, which, every time you send someone up, they take a picture. But if you look at the Korean Peninsula, the northern half is completely dark, and you can see the lights of the industry and the population in the southern half, which goes to prove the poverty in the north. So if there is a reunification, you'll probably see a completely democratic Korean Peninsula then.
Yep, I agree.
Well, I'm going through the topics. As I told you, I got a ton of things to talk about. One of the other things Trump was talking about during his campaign and is now doing, which is causing a little stir in some of these sanctuary cities, pulling federal funding. Now, if I remember correctly, wasn't this done also in the 70s, where sanctuary cities had their funding pulled because they were not adhering to federal immigration laws? And now it seems like when Trump does it, it's bad, but when Jimmy Carter did it, it was good.
Sanctuary cities should be slapped down hard. They are blatantly violating the law. Elected officials are committing conspiracy to violate the immigration laws of the USA, misdemeanor at the very least. Rack it all together what they're doing. They're probably guilty of felonies. Forget the political game playing. I think we should take these cases to a grand jury for indictments, followed by arrest warrants, and then Mr. Trump sends the U.S. Marshals to arrest the mayors and the city councils, or even the governor if necessary, and let's get these people in the court system. That would put an end to sanctuary cities.
Well, I believe that's true.
He took the first step.
I really do.
Well, he took the first step yesterday because he made the executive order on sanctuary cities. in the afternoon. He did that in the morning. In the afternoon, Department of Justice Attorney General Sally Yates made her statement saying that the Department of Justice is not going to enforce his executive order. And guess what? Trump said, "You're fired," all within less than 12 hours. That should send a huge message.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of Reagan when he fired all those air traffic controllers.
Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a friend who was an air traffic controller. He says, "Yep, Ronnie Reagan fired me, and I respect the hell out of him for it." So, yeah.
Man, I remember that. I mean, everyone's going, "Oh, it's going to disrupt all the air travel. No one's going to be able to move around for months on end." And that didn't happen. We had very, very few of our customers in my travel agency that were inconvenienced because of Ronald Reagan. But Trump is making a lot of good inroads. He sat down with Theresa May, and it's going to be interesting to see what the future will bring with that, because Kel and Tim Burton were talking about Theresa May, and she's not as conservative as we think she is. So we'll have to see whether or not Trump pulls her towards the conservative side or if she pulls him towards her viewpoint, because she has him now saying he's going to back NATO, which I think we still need a strong NATO in Europe to control Putin. So what is your take on the meeting between Theresa May and Donald Trump?
Very positive, very positive. As far as a UK-U.S. alliance, we've always been good friends. But you know what? I'm a little bit up in the air as to whether NATO is in our best interest or not. Now, it appears that Mr. Putin has come full circle, and he and Donald Trump need to hammer things out. I think, the Russians could be a huge help in crushing ISIS, which they have been doing a very good job at. And, we reverse the Obama silliness with our military orders and give them orders to go after the bad guys and join forces with the Russians if necessary. We could see a very interesting and valuable relationship between us, the UK, Israel, and Russia. Diane Sori made this point a few weeks ago. Now, we should all combine and we should focus on crushing Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. That would be an interesting get-together.
Well, if you look at the situation in Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran. Well, yeah, didn't Iran just do another missile test against the Iran pact? And yet they're pushing Trump.
They did.
Yeah. So I would like to see what Trump's reaction is going to be to that, violating the pact already, and he's in office just 1 week. So it's going to be. I want to see him do something positive that would slap down Iran, and I don't see it just yet.
Well, he'll be saying to General Mattis, "Handle it," and we will see some fireworks. I tell you, we may see another airstrike, a combined U.S.-Israeli airstrike on Iran's nuclear facilities, because they are violating the treaty. They cannot be trusted. And after what Barack Obama did to fast forward their nuclear weapons program, we may have to take drastic action against Iran. And most of the Middle East would quietly cheer that, because they consider Iran to be a dangerous snake. So, yep, it might happen.
Well, I'd like to see him pull out of that Obama, John Kerry, Iran pact. Oh, Hillary Clinton had her fingers in that one also. And maybe demand the ransom money that we paid back. I'm sorry, we don't pay ransom. Hand that money back. He already stopped the funds going to Palestine, which was a good move. That was the last thing Obama did, was sending money over to Palestine. And he said, oh, heck no. It's got to go through several different clearinghouses before it gets to Palestine. It stops right here. So we're seeing him take positive action, but to see a unification of Israel, of Egypt, of Russia and the United States in stopping ISIS or any radical Islam is a positive step forward. What scares me right now is Turkey was originally going to be part of NATO, but now you've got, I can never pronounce the name of the Turkish president, Erdogan. I'm probably saying it wrong.
Erdogan.
Yeah, and he's now bringing back radical Islam into Turkey, where Turkey was one of the most free countries for Christians, Jews, and Muslims. Now you're seeing the reverse of it in the implementation of Sharia law. So we got to see what we can do about bringing Turkey into this, into the fight, and stopping the radicalization of it.
Yep. I little brush fires everywhere, not only in our own front yards, but around the world. It's an interesting time to be alive, I'll tell you.
All right, now I got a question from Sue, Sweet Sue from New Mexico, and she's asking what you think Trump will do handling, if you caught the joint McCain and Ramsey statement about this immigration ban, how he would handle these two rhinos. Or what would your response be? What would your response be to McCain and Graham in there saying that he's destroying America with this immigration ban?
I would point out that Graham and McCain were Obama's best friends for the last 8 years, and leave it at that.
I mean, we tried here in South Carolina. We tried to get rid of Graham in South Carolina. That didn't work out too well.
I love how the way the media always says there's Republican dissent, and then it's just those two, maybe a third one, the same old characters.
It's the same old characters that we're seeing all over the place. This is what I was listening.
Yeah, you would think there was a whole lot of people, but it's just the same two or three that always side with the liberals. But they have an R in front of their name.
Yep, they are the poster children for a do-nothing Congress. Congress has had decades to clean up its act, to secure the border, to reduce the debts, and on and on and on. And Graham and McCain, their fingerprints are all over every bad policy that's been bringing this country down. They're not worth being listened to. They shouldn't even get airtime.
Well, Doc Miola points out in the chat room, thank you, Doc, for this, that Trump made a simple phone call and within 2 hours had opened up 6 refugee camps for these for the Middle East region, like Syria and so forth. And Obama could not do that in 8 years. Now, Ambassador Bolton had said this, I think about 2 or 3 years ago. I remember. Don't remember how long ago it was, but he said the standard procedure when you have a refugee situation like you have in Syria is that you open up the refugee camps in the bordering countries that have similar culture, language, and religion. And you open up the refugee camps, say, like, for example, in Turkey or Saudi Arabia, you have the surrounding countries handle the refugees. And if you can't settle the problem that's caused the refugee situation, after several years of negotiations or whatever you need to do, even if it's military intervention, at that point you then look to assimilate those refugees into those countries or then export them to other neighboring countries that are willing to take them. In this situation, that never occurred. These refugee camps were never set up. And in 2 hours, Trump has done what Obama could not do in 8 years. Now, that's amazing.
Obama didn't want to open those refugee camps because Obama was in the pocket of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood intended to use all those refugees as part of a silent jihad against the USA. And Obama was in that up to his eyebrows.
Oh, that is true. Now, I'm can't catch everything that's going on in the chat room, but it looks like if some people do want to call in and comment, the call-in number is 917-889-3675. But if you are calling in, please remember to press 1 so that I know that you want to join the conversation. Otherwise, my assumption is that you're just listening in. And I'm going to just take a really quick break here because I got to get myself a sip of water before I end up dying of a sore throat. Be right back here.
keeping with the traditions of the great American Southwest, when heroes were needed, they appeared. People who would mete out truth and justice and defend the weak. People like Vito and Al, Kel, Paul, Annie, LaShonda and Bill, Gotti and Dee, Chuck, David, Kath, Foster and Mike. The modern-day heroes of the Internet airwaves and the hosts of the magnificent 7 days of programming you can listen to each week right here on AmericanPatriotRadio.com.
Hi, this is Annie Ubelis, the radio chick of Southern Sense Talk Radio. I'm inviting you to join me and my guests to listen to us on Southern Sense Talk Radio. You'll find us informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect, but you'll never be bored. You'll never know where we'll go, but you'll love the journey. You can join us every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Southern Sense, and that is Southern with a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com.
All right, we're back. Our guest is Wild Bill Finlay, and you can find Wild Bill up on Wild Bill for America, up on Facebook, as well as YouTube. Oh, man, Bill, some of your videos are just absolutely awesome. Everyone has to go to your YouTube page because it's just, if you don't see a great American there, then you're on the wrong page, right?
Thank you. I appreciate the comment there. Be careful, though. There's other sites out there. One of them is wildbillforamericasucks.com. That was put up by some of my troll nemesis. But, yeah, Wild Bill for America on YouTube and on Facebook. And I tell you, every day I drink my coffee and read the hate mail on YouTube, and it really makes me smile to have some of my friends get on YouTube and defend me a little bit. Because, boy, they get pretty nasty. Nasty.
Oh, man, I would imagine so. You know, I'm just going to switch the subject a little bit here because this really amazes me. A number of years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago, there was an LBGT rally in Kansas City area, and CARE saddled up with them and did a joint rally with them supporting the LBG community. Now, if that wasn't an oxymoron, I don't know what is, because the LBG community obviously was unaware that Muslims have a tendency to throw gays off rooftops. So these idiots are pairing with their very enemy. How's that saying go? Enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's the attitude of CARE. So are these people really aware of what would happen should America be completely overthrown and CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood rule America in a one caliphate?
Well, the Muslim pogrom of the homosexual community is a little bit of a misnomer. There are some Muslim groups that attack the homosexuals, and we've seen them on the news, but for the most part, homosexuality is a big part of Islam. A lot of people don't know that. Saudi Arabia is probably the most homosexual country in the world, and the Quran, where the martyrs are promised 72 virgins. What a lot of people don't know is that along with those virgins come, quote, beautiful boys draped in pearls who never get old. So, the statement that Islam is against homosexuality is a little bit misleading.
Well, you know, I'm trying to catch some of the stuff that's going on in the chat room, so I'm just asking for civility in the chat room. If someone is not civil in the chat room, I will boot them out. I have no qualms about that. It's my show and my rules, so please behave out there. That said, you know, it's true, the hypocrisy that goes on. You know, you have young boys are being used as sexual toys, and yet you also have the subjugation of women. So why does the LGBT community, you know, saddle up with, you know, child abusers and women abusers and think this is acceptable behavior?
It's the war on Trump. Like I say, they will jump in bed with Satan himself if it hurts Trump or the American Christian value system. You know, you're right. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So that's why we had radical feminists protecting Muslim speakers at their latest rally. It is an insane situation. Need more Prozac in the water.
That's true. And I'm just going to remind the individuals out there in the chat room, my show, my rules. If you want to have a constructive comment, and I'll be happy to ask our guest whatever comment or question you have, I will be happy to extend that. But as to, I pay for the program, so as long as I pay the fees, it's my show. That said, there is a backlash now. We do have in Virginia the Black Robed Regiment. And for those that are unfamiliar with the Black Robed Regiment, it goes back to the Revolutionary War, where pastors not only preached from the pulpit, but stepped out of the pulpit to actually lead troops in the field, not only into battle, but also lead them spiritually. And there is a revival in it. Of this movement here in the United States. It's been slowly growing, and they are now battling back and saying, listen, there are certain moral values and things we need to protect in our society, such as these things with the transgender bathrooms. You know, would you want your daughter to go into a bathroom where a grown man is? You know, people have the misnomer that a transgender is someone that is attracted to for example, if you're a man going and transgendering into a woman, you have an attraction to men. That's not true. Majority of transgenders still have a heterosexual sexual appetite. So you're sending a man claiming to be a woman into the girls' room, and your daughter is now going in there, or your wife or your sister is now going to that bathroom where they may face sexual assault. And here you had Loretta Lynch making the LBGT community a protected class, so you can't prosecute them for this sexual assault. So will we see this overturned? Did we lose Bill again? Tell me we lost Bill again. I think we did.
Probably.
Bill,
Wow.
you're going in and out on me like a yo-yo. Come back to us, baby. Come back to us. All right. But, Curtis, what is your opinion on that? Are you seeing now a backlash with this bathroom issues? I mean, I was surprised. I went into Wally World, for anyone that doesn't know, Wally World is Walmart, to pick up a couple of items I needed. And I walked to go to the ladies' room, and I see there's a family bathroom. So instead of saying, all right, men can go into ladies' room and ladies can go into the men's room, they put now out this family bathroom that you think is a safe zone, when it's exactly the opposite. You are letting a possibility of a sexual assault happen.
Yeah, well, I would say that the only business that I know really have taken the heat for that is on Target. I hear their profit margin is down and their stocks are down. But overall, I would say that the election is where most people voiced their opinion of what was going on, you know, on the left, and especially with their policies. So I think, just like Bill was saying, you know, people are waking up and they don't like what they see. So they're finally doing something about it. They're switching parties. They may not be ideologues, but they see the danger that this country is in. And I think once we have them on the side, just like Donald Trump, he's not an ideologue. He's a businessman and a patriot. And I think that's one of the reasons why he sees things the way he does sometimes, where, say, like if Pence had gotten in as president, he probably would have gotten rid of Sally Yates the first day, you know, where Trump is trying to be kind of like, you know, siding with the left on some things that he feels he can do, you know, just to get along. But as you can see, Sally Yates being an ideologue, she turned against him the first time a policy came across her desk that she didn't agree with, and then put him in a position to fire her. So I really think he should clean house and just put in, you know, people who are conservatives or just constitutionalists or just plain patriots like himself. I think we get a lot further.
Well, you know, Doc Miola puts up in the chat room that there have been family bathrooms around they're usually for one person, but that's not the case in a lot of them anymore, because now I even found in my local grocery store, Publix has one, and it's got more than one stall in it. It used to be you had a changing table in the ladies' room so that the mother can bring the child in with them, that if it was a toddler, that bring the child in, put him up on the changing table. But that's not the case anymore. And is Wild Bill back?
I'm here.
Ah, there we go.
I had to go log into your chat room, see what was going on. Sounded like you had a little bit of a riot going on. I'd hate to miss a good riot.
Well, it looks like my friends in the chat room were helping me out. And I guess we all chased our little troll away. So thank you, guys. I swear, Kel and I have some of the best listeners here. We don't put up with anything. And like I said, I pay for the show, right?
Nothing like a red-haired. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill, what do you have to do? Keep putting quarters in?
Well, no, I was on Southern Sense regular site. I wasn't on the Blog Talk site. So, yeah, but I mute my mic when I get on there because it messes up your mic there. So, okay, I'm back and I'm going to try to behave myself a little bit.
Well, those people that do log into Southern Sense, there is a link to the BTR chat on my page. So it's next to the player. So you don't have to activate the player. You just have to click on the chat room, and that'll open up separately. So for those that are on our website, you could always have that little bit of a feature. Ah, man. I mean, now I'm trying to remember where I was. Oh, we were talking about the protesters in Nebraska, but one of the things that Trump did was open up the pipelines. So we got American jobs coming in. He started bringing jobs into the United States before he even took office, and he's still continuing to bring in jobs. I want to see him to open up the offshore drilling again, too, because you have certain areas here, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, that are excellent for offshore drilling.
Hear, hear. Absolutely.
Well, I'm actually battling my congressman, who is known as a conservative. I've been having a running debate with him about the offshore drilling, and he's opposing it based upon the sonic cannons they're using to locate these possible wells. And everyone is using surveys and studies that were done in the 1970s. No one's talking about the modern cannons they're using, because they're using them in the Gulf of Mexico. They're using them off the coast of Africa, and you don't see massive strandings of whales, dolphins, or any other fish. So the technology is changed in over 5 decades. So why aren't we pushing for this?
Oh, we should be pushing at every legitimate source. I see Dr. Miola in the chat room says, no need to open the waterways. We've found the world's largest oil reserve on land. Well, that's fine. That's one card in our hand. But I'd also like to have a few aces elsewhere, too. And the oceans are a prime area for energy exploration. It was Jimmy Carter way back when started the Department of Energy with the goal of making this nation energy independent. So I say go for it, both land and open water drilling. Yeah,
now there are a lot of different things here, because I did my research on this because I was out there countering the no drilling protesters, and I was the lone one out there with all my signs, but I still went out there and protested the protesters. And what they want to do along the eastern seaboard, which is encompassing Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, is drill off the shelf. And now the shelf extends 50 miles out in many areas. And you're not going to see the pumps. You're not going to see the wells. It's not as deep as the Deepwater Horizon drill would be. It's not even anywhere close to that depth. So you're talking about shallow drilling. So if there is a problem with the well, it can be detected faster, repaired faster, with the least amount of damage. And not only that, in the Gulf of Mexico, when they opened up the drilling there, red snapper was almost extinct. That fish did not exist in the Gulf of Mexico. Once they opened it up to drilling with all these rigs, they became natural reefs. And red snapper is now, the main staple of red snapper coming onto our tables is coming from the Gulf of Mexico. It is teeming with wildlife, especially red snapper. We're losing our fisheries off the eastern seaboard. If we open up the drilling, we will have the artificial reefs the drills will create for bringing back our fishing industry to the American shores. Why are we buying fish from Chile or Argentina where we don't know the quality of it is? Why aren't we getting fish right off our own shores? We have the ability not only to increase our energy supply, but to increase our food supply by opening up the drilling and bringing back the fishing industry to the United States that is dying. It is dying. And not only that, think of the ecotourism. The tourist boats that will be going out there to dive on these drills, to see the wildlife that will be teeming. The economy will be boosted through tourism. The economy will be boosted with more energy. The economy will be boosted with more food that we can export. Oh, that's my rant. I can keep on going, Bill. You got to stop me here.
Oh, that was a good one. I didn't know about these drilling rigs serving as artificial reefs and benefiting the wildlife. That's a great point. You're educating me. I say go for it. Anything that boosts the food supply, I'm all in favor for.
Well,
so,
and
we know.
Well, I was just going to
We know.
Okay. I was just going to add that when these rigs go up, the people that work on the rigs are going to move into the area. They're going to bring their families, and which will also boost the local economy with more retail stores, more services being needed. We will need to expand your school system. You can have now more school choice because you've got people coming in from out of state. Jobs that will be formed here because now all these other auxiliary industries and retailers will need people to work them. That's the continuation of my rant. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, for the people that say offshore drilling is unsafe, we had the worst possible experience with that one a few years ago, the Deepwater Horizon, that the wellhead blew and pumped 4 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. And, of course, the people were just going nuts saying, oh, the Gulf of Mexico is dead. The coastlines are going to be dead and uninhabitable for years. Well, it took about 6 months to put together a huge flotilla to go and try to do battle with this giant oil slick. And when they went out, they couldn't find it. It was gone. The ocean itself had absorbed this massive oil slick. God created this planet to be self-sufficient, and it is the best cleaner in the world. How's that for a pun? But, so we know that offshore drilling can be very safe and beneficial. And, hey, if one of them goes dry, we just use the rig for an offshore prison.
Well, not only that, people don't understand that the ocean floor leaks oil every day. If we were to tap those leaks, we could control the leaks. But it is a natural occurring event that has occurred since the start of time on our planet. The ocean floors have always leaked oil. The majority of tar balls that wash up on the Gulf of Mexico are from natural occurrences, not from oil rigs leaking. It's the misnomers, the misinformation that is out there is stunning. And we can have an energy-efficient nation in less than 5 years. We could be supplying the rest of the world with energy, be it coal, be it nuclear, be it oil, be it solar, be it wind. People don't understand. Wind? They're all proponents of wind. Are you aware of the psychological effect of a wind turbine on a local neighborhood? The need for psychotropic drugs because people are being driven crazy because of the vibration of those wind turbines, much less the wildlife that is being killed because the birds flying into them. How many American eagles have been murdered by these wind turbines? Guys, we've got to find a more responsible way of doing energy. Don't get me started on solar panels or the toxicity of those panels, the danger those panels pose to the environment because you can't get rid of them. They are not biodegradable. They do not meld into our our ecosystem very well. And if you have to replace them, there is no way of disposing of them, much less the heat they cause, which is causing a change in crop cycles and bird migrations and everything else. These solar farms are dangerous, guys. I don't say much.
Like the idea.
Go ahead.
I do like the idea of getting off the grid. I'd like to see every home in America have the option of just switching off, the government-supplied power and living comfortably on their own. So, in fact, I did a video a while back called Getting Back to Normal, where I suggested that we start all looking for a place where we can have a couple of acres to raise chickens and grow some vegetables, and with a little bit of solar. Sorry, Annie. You can live comfortably. And if you have a hand pump well and a wood stove to cook on, you could survive comfortably in just about any situation.
Well, Doc Miola said that I was incorrect about oil. The oil isn't the problem. It's the Corexit. I don't know what Corexit is. That was used.
I don't either.
Is that the detergent that was used to try to clean up the oil? That's what I think he's referring to, which that in itself is toxic. That the chemical they used, and yes, a lot of people were getting sick, especially the workers that were handling the stuff. There was instances of cancer and other ailments because of the chemicals they used to try to get the oil out of the Gulf with the Deepwater Horizon spill. And if you remember correctly, there was also the Exxon Valdez up in Alaska, that when they used those chemicals, it caused a lot of problems. There was a problem with the fisheries up in Alaska for a long time after the Exxon Valdez spill. So the cure often is worse than the disease. And
so now we know. Just stand back and let the earth clean itself up.
Well,
I wonder if that corrects it is where we got these pink yarn pussycat hat people from.
The mutations. Well, look, I'm looking down at the clock, and we're down to within the last 5 minutes of the show, and everything has gone so fast, Bill, despite the technical difficulties we had and everything else, but we had so much fun. And I want to thank you for joining us, and you just pick up the phone, and I'll have you back on. You got my number, I got yours. And
oh, well, thank you.
Well, we're going to be back on Friday. Go ahead, Bill. We got just a minute left.
I was just going to say, it's time to wrap it up. I ran out of wisdom about 20 minutes ago.
You're never out of wisdom, that's for damn sure. But I want to let everyone know, we'll be back here on Friday. We've got Dr. Steve Turley will be joining us. We're going to be talking more about these snowflake protesters and their effect on helping the conservative movement grow. And then we've got musician Richard Lynch. He's got a new release out, a new mix. He's going to be joining us. And Len Sandler has a great new book out about World War II, a couple that survived World War II. One was a French resistance fighter. The other one was an American GI. And they survived the Nazis and torture and everything else and have lived to tell about it and raised a wonderful family. We got great guests coming up, lined up for the rest of the month. And Larry Pratt should be joining us. There was a screw-up somewhere along the way last week, but he will be joining us from Gun Owners of America. So we will be back here, guys. Same bat time, same bat station. And I will sign off with John Kahn, American Heart. I say good night and God bless.
I'm American made.
Hey, Bill, thank you for joining us today. It was so much fun.
Oh, I'm glad I made it on time.
That you did. And like I said, I had a list of stuff to talk about, and I got about halfway through it. Oh, man. But like I said, it's crazy out there. It is absolutely crazy, and it's going to get crazier as the years go on. And Donald Trump is great fodder for late-night TV, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have a TV. I missed out on all that. But I am going public, though. This Saturday, we're starting a Christian service on the beach right here in Daytona at 9 o'clock every Saturday morning. So put that on your prayer list. If you were in this area, I would recruit you to be a part of it. So could sure use your support on that.
All right, and what area in Florida are you on?
Daytona Beach.
Oh, you're not too far. Oh, Daytona 500 is coming up real soon. Yay! All right, I get my NASCAR mix back on.
All right. Well, thanks
right.
for having me on, Annie. It's always fun. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to see about trying to get you up here for one of our Tea Party meetings or GOP meetings or something, see what we can work out.
That would be fun. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Take care.
90 seconds.
They say that we need changing, 'cause if all the founding fathers seem to get it wrong. Oh, but I say that I still believe in
60 seconds.
Liberator, cultivator, freedom knows. So I suggest you take a look inside. Man, I think you changed already. You went and lost your pride, but I'm American made. I got American heart. I got American faith in America's heart. Go on, raise the flag. I got stars in my eyes. I'm in love with her.
10 seconds.
And I won't apologize. Dress her up so you don't recognize her. She'll be there if you wake up in the night. Because a mother can always find her child. Even when that child don't know he's lost. I'm American made.